first, we have to go to the Cotton Bowl, our stomping grounds down in Fair Park for the Red River Rivalry. All eyes will be on Dallas, Texas, when the 12th ranked Oklahoma Sooners take on the 3rd ranked Texas Longhorns. Both of the only 2 undefeated teams in the Big 12. Of course, the drama, the storylines write themselves there. Texas and Oklahoma are feeling like they've got to go scorched earth after Brett Yormark kind of publicly abandoned them a couple of weeks ago. And this is one of their chances to really stick it to the Big 12 conference, not only cement themselves as the favorite, but also really establish themselves as a real playoff contender. Of course, you can watch this 11 a.m. on ABC. Guys, the X's and O's for me are very, very interesting in this game because Texas has looked very legitimate for, I want to say, like 85% of the games that they've played. There's still been a little inkling that makes you wonder, okay, if it gets tough, if it gets physical, if they get punched in the mouth, does this kind of fall into the same Texas team of old? But for the rest of it, their offense has been efficient. The defense is the best defense that they've had in quite some time. For me, I'm looking at 2 things here. The front 7 versus Oklahoma's running game. Can Texas make OU and Dylan Gabriel one-dimensional? And then what does Texas do from a red zone efficiency standpoint? Trey, the Longhorns have really had a hard time finishing drives, putting 6 on the board as opposed to field goals. We saw Burt Auburn was a little bit vulnerable for the first time, a little mortal last week. Where do you sit on the X's and O's as far as an advantage? Does Texas get that advantage? Are they that much better of a team, or do you like Oklahoma as an upstart here?
I think we forgot how talented Oklahoma is because of how their season turned out last year. I think adjusting to a new coaching staff, adjusting to new schemes, adjusting to high expectations on the defensive side of the ball, maybe for the first time in a long time. If you listen to Mitch's thoughts on their former defensive coordinator, it was a recipe for disaster. That combined with injuries at the quarterback position and all over the field for the Sooners last year, I think a lot of people were lulled to sleep and forgot just how talented this team is. These 2 teams are way closer in talent than you might think, just looking at the stars on paper and knowing what we know about what Texas typically has. So I'm expecting a really close game here. I think these are 2 teams that you don't typically think about when it comes to defensive prowess, but they've shown it on the field this year. We know Oklahoma hasn't played a ton of great offenses, but even those bad offenses that they're playing, they are completely shutting it down. And that was not the case a few years ago with the Oklahoma Sooners. They're finally getting that talent to perform, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And what I don't think a lot of people are talking about nationally, this is not a shot at Texas. They've done a great job taking care of business, but Dylan Gabriel is far and away the best quarterback that the Texas Longhorns will have seen so far this year. Texas has gotten to play Jalen Milroe. He's gotten to play Keaton Slovis at Rice, and then they played a couple backups, right? Jason Bean last week against Kansas, and Wyoming even threw their backup at him as well a couple weeks ago. So I'm really interested to see how the Texas defense responds. They're going to get punched in the mouth a couple times. We know that both of these teams like to start hot. Who responds the best on the defensive side of the ball, who makes adjustments to shut down the other team's quarterback, is going to ultimately decide the game for this. Ultimately decide this game for me. So I think it's close, guys. I think I'm taking the under. If you watch the Ledger segment already, I took the under. Mitch took the under as well. I think it stays under 60.5 points. Mm-hmm. I think Oklahoma keeps it close. I think Texas ekes out a win, though. And I think this is the first of 2 matchups we see. So this will not be the last time that we see these 2 teams on the field. I've kind of changed my prediction there. I do think that we'll see a rematch in Arlington in December. But for this one in Dallas in October, I'm going to take the Longhorns to win, but Oklahoma to cover.
Your hand forced a little bit with the Red Raiders sinking like a stone.
Somebody's got to take that. Somebody's got to take that Red Raiders spot. And I think Kansas State has looked really, really good. It wouldn't surprise me if Kansas State ends up there, but right now, from what we've seen on the field, Oklahoma and Texas have just been far and away the most impressive. And look, I will fully buy into Texas as a playoff contender if they handle business against Oklahoma this week. I will be in. I will shut up about the, wait and see approach. We'll have waited and we'll have seen if they can take care of business against Oklahoma this week. I'll be fully impressed and fully on board.
Garrett, on the flip side of the coin, you've got the Jimmies and the Joes. All eyes will be on the quarterback battle. Dylan Gabriel for the Sooners, Quinn Ewers for the Longhorns. Both quarterbacks have struggled with efficiency, with consistency at times throughout their career, but both also look pretty solid coming into play this Saturday. Neither quarterback is turning the football over. You've also got a very interesting running game battle to watch. Jonathan Brooks popped off last week, but Oklahoma's rush defense has been really solid. What's the storyline that you're looking for from a player perspective?
I think when you look at this one, you just have to acknowledge that the quarterback battle is going to be where this one ends up winning. I think, and you don't want to make it that simple when you're breaking down football, right? You don't want to go that easy most times, but I do think you have to acknowledge at this point, when you have two talented rosters, chock full of talent, chock full of guys who are going to go on and play at the next level, you have to acknowledge that the little things are going to matter. So, like, okay, penalties and not turning the ball over and stuff like that. But a lot of that comes down to the quarterback play, right? And just making sure that the quarterback's making good decisions with the football and extending plays and doing what he needs to win. I think right now, if you had to make me answer, I think Dylan Gabriel's a slightly better quarterback than Quinn Ewers just at this moment. That's not to slight Quinn. That's a very, very slight margin for him. And so I'm thinking that's probably the case. But Texas is going to be able to hand the ball off to Jonathan Brooks, which, if he can stay hot like he has been, then I think that gives them the edge in this one. Because I think that at the end of the day, whether you're Quinn or whether you're having an amazing game or whether you're struggling against the better defense that you've seen so far, and you're doing whatever it is, at the end of the day, if you can hand the ball off and establish some running game and not have to pick up every single play on your own and get some of the pass rush off of you, then things are going to go really well. I do think that they're going to have some success on the ground. I'm actually kind of on the flip side of you guys. I don't think we really know what either of these defenses are yet. And I think this is going to be a fairly high scoring game. I think that this is just going to be one of those blow it up, both quarterbacks dueling. I think that at some point the wheels come off and, it's just going to be one of those classic Red Rivers where we, see it, 75 yards that way, 60 yards that way, 75 yards the other way, right? And it's just going to be a bang, bang type of thing. And so I do think it will go back and forth. At the end of the day, my biggest concern is just with what the Texas defense is, Trey, kind of like what you mentioned. They haven't really played a good quarterback yet. They haven't played anyone who I think can pass the football with any sort of effectiveness, and Texas has started slow. They've had some slow starts, so far. Not in every game, but they have had some starts where they've kind of gotten out the blocks a little slow, haven't quite gotten off to the races. And if Oklahoma comes out, punches them in the mouth, gets up, 10-0, 14-0 right out the gates because of a couple of slow starts on their offense, then I don't know how they're going to respond to that. They're a really, really good team. I do think right now I do have Oklahoma winning this game. I think it's a slight margin. I think this is going to be a real tight one, but I do have Oklahoma winning this game at this moment. But I mean, this is a confidence level 1 pick, right? I've got just no confidence that this is going to go one way. Both of these teams are really, really good, and it could play either direction, right? You could see Jonathan Brooks have an amazing game, and the Oklahoma defense has no answer for him, and then Quinn gets to set up the play action, and we're hitting deep shots, and it's just a party for Texas, right? That could be a extremely likely outcome. But right now, if you had to make me pick, I think Gabriel's the better quarterback. I think he'll make just one more play than Quinn by the end of the day.
We are truly gambling by taking the under in this game because I'm pulling up the recent results. I think it's fair not to discredit Texas' win last year. It was dominant. It was awesome for the Longhorns. I think it's fair to throw that out from, a historical perspective because of the situation for Oklahoma when we're just looking at point totals. If you throw that one out last year, this game would have gone under the 60.5 just one time since 2016. And that was 2017. So it historically has a lot of points, Garrett. So you're right to point that out.
Well, I will say historically, Texas and Oklahoma don't play defense.
That's
also,
true,
though, right? So that was for me. If you're watching on YouTube, my title card says Hammer the Nail Saturday. If you're listening on the podcast, maybe check out the YouTube. Give that a try. Shameless plug there. But I put that because to me, by week 6, if you're a playoff contender, the frame for your playoff run should be taking shape, right? Like if we're building a house, if we're building some sort of structure throughout the course of the season, this is one of those weeks that you've just got to hammer the nails home, right? Like you need to be raising that frame up so we can start putting in drywall. We can start doing a bunch of other things, right? Figuring out where the granite countertops are going to go. And this is one of those weeks for me. I think Texas finally quiets all the doubt, finally takes the narrative that they can't play defense, that they're not physical, that they can't win a big game. I think this is their first chance to really silence that narrative. Garrett, you're going Oklahoma outright. I'm going to take Texas minus the 6.5. I will say the math, very tight, very, very, very tight to make this happen. I'm going to go Texas 30, Oklahoma 23. We'll get the under. We'll get the cover. And I'm all on board the Longhorns here.
I do want to say, just for the record, I'm not saying that Texas can't be physical or can't play good defense. I'm just saying I don't buy it as much as everybody else has yet. I don't know that this is a bona fide defense yet. They played well against Bama. I'm still not sure that they have a quarterback. And then they've played a bunch of backups. And so I just don't think that you can say yet that they're that level, right? I don't think that anyone would look at Kansas and Baylor and Wyoming and say, wow, what a couple of gauntlets, right? Man, I'm surprised they got through that without giving a whole bunch of points. So, I think that after this game, we're going to know a lot more about Texas. And sure, if they hammer the nail and they get it done, then, good for them. And that's a bona fide playoff team. But, at this point, I still have to wait and see.
And this will be the best quarterback they play this year, short of going to the college football playoff.
Sure. Yeah, Garrett, ESPN, the FPI actually favors your pick here. They give Oklahoma a better than 50-50 chance to win this game. So that is worth noting. Oklahoma's defense also has not played a top 70 offense yet this season, which, come on, SMU. They're letting us down
them either.
In that metric. That's disappointing, to say the least.
Gracious him. How about that?